We'll have Pledge Allegiance tonight, so please rise. Place your right hand over your heart and repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, roll call, please.
Mayor Harrington,
Here.
Vice Mayor Wu, Councilmember Chan,
Here.
Councilmember Ding, and Councilmember Menchaca is absent this evening.
Thank you. We'll now have some announcements from our Chief City Clerk.
Tonight's meeting is live streamed on Cable Channel 3 and the city's online platforms. If you would wish to address the City Council during tonight's meeting, we request that you please complete a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. When speaking, please state your name for the record. If you wish to receive City Council agendas, please sign up on the city's website.
Thank you. Next, we'll have the approval of the agenda order. For members of the public, please note that tonight's public hearing, item 5A, regarding an ordinance for inclusionary housing and the density bonus. The public hearing will be opened today, but continued to the regular City Council meeting of June 20th, 2023. Public comment will be received at that time, including comments submitted through the city's website. Are there any objections to the agenda order? Tony, do you have any objections? Hearing none, the agenda order is approved. Next item, please.
Presentations. Introduction of Fire Department employee, Fire Captain Christopher Fetner. Fire Chief Wallace will make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor Harrington, Vice Mayor Wu, and members of the San Gabriel City Council. Steve Wallace, Fire Chief for the City of San Gabriel, and I stand before you tonight with the distinct pleasure of introducing our newest Fire Captain, Christopher Fetner. Chris is a local kid, grew up in Temple City. He was hired on with the San Gabriel Fire Department in 2006. He holds a degree in fire science from Rio Hondo College. He has held the ranks of firefighter, paramedic, and engineer prior to his captain's promotion. He's also a state certified fire instructor. He serves as our San Gabriel's Basic Fire Academy coordinator. He teaches our in-house engineer academy, as well as teaching driver operator classes for numerous local agencies. So chances are with the younger guys around here driving now, he's probably the guy that's taught them how to drive a fire engine. So I don't know whether to say look out or good job. He's a qualified member of a urban search and rescue team, and he's been part of a REMS team, which is sort of like a special forces sort of team that goes out on big wildland fires and is positioned to rescue firefighters and other folks that get us in trouble. And he was actually part of a team that San Gabriel had the honor of being of that really put that program on the map a couple of years ago when they made a rescue of a critically injured firefighter that required some high-angle rope rescue and helicopter operations. He's our former CERT coordinator, but still is active in teaching CERT and is currently in training to be a fire investigator and to join our arson team. Tonight, Captain Fetner is going to be joined by his wife, Kim, and his son, Adam, if they could come forward, please. And they will be pinning his badge. This is your chance to stab him if you need to. It won't do much damage, but it's symbolic. Nice. Captain Fetner, if I could have you come back up here, we'll have the city clerk give you an oath of office.
Please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Chris Fetner,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I enter into this obligation freely
that I enter into this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservation
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
and that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd like to respectfully request that maybe our abbreviated city council can come and take a picture with Captain Fetner tonight.
Thank you. Let's join us.
Good job, Chris. And if you'd just like to briefly give any comments? Sure, thanks. I should note, he was in a pretty stiff competition for this position. There was one spot and 6 well-qualified candidates. So Chris put in a lot of work to get to this spot.
Good evening, members of the community, Mayor Harrington, City Council, City Manager Lazaretto. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you, Fire Chief Wallace. I'm extremely humbled and honored. I appreciate your faith in me, and I look forward to continuing to learn from you and the members of our organization. I want to take this opportunity again to thank all of those who have mentored me and supported me through the past 16 years here. And I especially want to thank my wife, who was just up here, who has always been so supporting. She always says to me and my children and instills in us that we need to be productive members of society. And I think that we are. I'm proud to say that I am a productive member of San Gabriel, and I am proud to serve this community. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say thanks, Chris, and congratulations on your promotion. I know you've served us for a very long time, and we're just happy to have you and see you through this promotion, and hopefully you're with us for a very long time. And who knows, we need a new chief soon, right, Chief? Thank you. All right, next item, please.
Public comment. This is the time set aside for members of the public to address the city council on items of interest that are not on the agenda but are within the subject matter jurisdiction of the San Gabriel City Council. If you wish to address the council, please fill out a speaker's card and hand it to the clerk. Our first comment tonight was submitted through the website and comes to us from Chastity Jennings Nunez, MD, and reads as follows. To Mayor Harrington, Councilmember Chen, and the remaining city council members who may be considering the support of Mayor Harrington in his attempt to bring multiple proposed ballot initiatives that will appear on the November 2024 ballot to the city council agenda for votes of opposition or support. I know that I speak for most voting residents when I say that I neither need nor want the city council to be my voice on an issue that I am more than capable of voting for or against myself. In this particular case, I am especially opposed to the perception that I am in favor of representation by a conservative Republican Trump-supporting faction any more than I am sure that Mayor Harrington would tolerate a vote by City Council to support an initiative he felt was being promoted by a liberal Democratic agenda. As a voting citizen, I understand that we each get one vote and utilize that responsibility to make our voices heard. There is no place for the city council or individual elected officials to push their own ideological agendas in such a blatantly inappropriate way. As one resident said at the last council meeting, political posturing means absolutely nothing and only results in taking time, attention, and resources away from doing the actual work of serving the community. We do not need to take up hours of council and staff time allowing council members to campaign from the dais for their political opinions. Each of you has your own private platform and can freely use them to campaign in opposition or in favor of upcoming initiatives and candidates. Mayor Harrington should not be able to place these items on the agenda without a majority of the council members agreeing to them, and I would hope that at least 3 of the council members will heed the calls of San Gabriel residents to stay out of this area of politics. That concludes the comment. Mr. Mayor, I have no additional speaker cards.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the council? Seeing none, Councilmember Ding, are there any public comments from your location? All right. Next item, please.
Consent calendar. All items listed under the consent calendar are considered routine, and recommendations will be approved in one motion unless a member of the city council or public requests separate discussion. We have not received a request from the public to pull an item.
Thank you. And Councilmember Ding, has anyone at your location requested to pull an item, including yourself? All right, none. Any other council members like to pull any consent? I'll entertain a motion. There's only 2 of you. We're going to have to be active. Someone's got to move it. You moving it, Tony? All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll make second the motion.
Thank you. We have a motion made by Councilmember Ding and seconded by Councilmember Chan. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chan,
Yes.
Councilmember Ding, Vice Mayor Wu,
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Public hearing. Ordinance numbers 689 and 690, amending Chapter 153 of the San Gabriel Municipal Code relating to inclusionary housing and density bonus, Zone Text Amendment 23-001, introduction and first reading.
Thank you. I now open the public hearing. The staff recommendation is to continue the public hearing to the City Council regular meeting of June 20th, 2023. Public comment will be received at that time, including comments submitted through the website. So do we have any motions to continue the hearing?
I'll make the motion to continue the hearing.
All right.
I second.
Thank you. Motion to continue by Councilmember Chan, seconded by Vice Mayor Wu. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Chan,
Yes.
Councilmember Ding, Vice Mayor Wu,
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
All right. Next item, please.
We have no continued business this evening. The next item is new business item A, First Amendment to the Property Maintenance Agreement with the San Gabriel Historical Association for the Hayes House Historical Museum and Jail. Planning Manager Samantha Tawassart will make the presentation.
Yes, good evening, Mayor, members of the City Council. Samantha Tawassart, Planning Manager with Community Development. As identified on the slide, the item is identified as the Hayes House Agreement, but this is a maintenance agreement First Amendment request. The subject structure is located at 546 Broadway, and to the west of the property is Mission Drive, to the east is Santa Anita Street. The property is on the south side of Broadway, and this is within the Mission District Specific Plan area, and this is on the city's property. This is a street view of the property. This is what can be seen as you walk or drive past the property. So the proposed amendment this evening to highlight some dates. In 2003 is when the Historical Association and the city entered into the original agreement. Then in 2020, the agreement was updated for a term of 5 years. And this is for the operation, maintenance, and management of the facilities. This is the Hayes House Museum and Jail, and the city is to contribute annually a fee of $1,500, and this is to assist with the maintenance costs. We are the third year into the agreement, and the proposed amendment this evening is to amend the contribution to $3,000 annually, and also a request for a one-time cost of $25,000 to assist with roof repair work at the museum, as well as for pest control at the Hayes House. So the following slides are photos provided by the historical associations, and this is to provide images of the conditions within the interior as well as the exterior of the structure. What you see here is the bathroom floor damage. Continuing more photos of the damage, primarily within the bathroom area. Again, flooring, resetting of the tub and the toilet. Also, the funds for painting the walls and the ceiling. And this is a shot of the water damage to the ceiling at the museum. And cracks in the siding, as well as damages to the handrails. And then also to replace the crawl space screen. And so this is a general description provided to staff. Following staff's presentation this evening is relatively brief. This is a request by the Historical Association to come before the City Council to provide an update on the conditions and the operations of the facilities. Present this evening is the president of the Historical Association, Pam Petovich, as well as Mary Camarena and Helen Sanchez, and they can provide more information as far as the conditions of the facilities. If the council decides to approve the request this evening, the draft amendment is provided as attachment attachment C, excuse me. This concludes staff's presentation, and again, the association is present this evening.
Thank you, Samantha. Do any council members have any factual questions regarding the report? All right, Tony, do you have any questions? All right. Just for discussion, okay. Do we have any public comment?
Our first speaker is Senya Lubasic.
Right.
Good evening, Mayor Harrington, members of council. I want to speak tonight firmly in support of your approval of this amended agreement between the city and the Hayes House. The Hayes House is an important bridge in the history of the city. It is what moves us from the Mexican period of California's history to the Anglo period, giving us a view into early statehood and the city's own incorporation. It is a significant part of connecting the different histories that our city is fortunate enough to tell. However, it's also an important agreement because I believe that it has the opportunity to move the city away from a case-by-case reaction to preservation issues in the city writ large. We have an opportunity in supporting the Hayes House to develop a more robust preservation program for the city. This is something that the Historic Preservation and Cultural Resource Commission, the most mouthful of a commission that we have in the city, would love to see happen. We've been working hard to achieve certified local government status, something that we refer to as CLG, which has Historic Preservation Fund grants. And this would be a perfect example of a way that we could leverage those funds to support preservation in our city. We also have the wonderful expertise of Jennifer Mermilliod and my fellow commissioners, and this is something that we would like to incorporate into a more robust preservation program. So again, I encourage you to support this amendment, to support the Hayes House, to support the giants who have kept it aloft for all these many years. The amount of work that they have put into the Hayes House and the museum, which truly does serve as our city's archive, cannot be tallied. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Helen Sanchez.
going to go first. Takes a little while to get up here. We kind of had worked out our own little order of what we were going to do.
And just, you know, since this is an agendized item and you are on the agenda, I'm not going to limit you to 3 minutes, so you don't have to be
Okay,
up against the clock.
thank you. I'm Pam Petovich, the current president of the San Gabriel Historical Association. I say that because maybe someday somebody else is going to take over. Anyway, I'm here tonight to speak to you about what is happening with the museum properties. We have some expensive repairs needed to keep ourselves open. The museum building needs a new roof. It has had a leak in it for several years and nobody's been able to fix it exactly. But we're very lucky that nothing is dripping. The ceiling gets wet and the plaster drops off. It's getting bigger and bigger, and some estimators have said that we are lucky the ceiling hasn't fallen down. In the Hayes house, we had a leak in the bathroom from the pipe under the bottom of the bathtub drain, which sprayed all over the wall and ceiling and flooded the floor. Luckily, someone saw water coming out under the house and called Public Works to find the leak. They were able to locate it, and now the water has been shut off. We need to have new flooring, reset the toilet, reset the bathtub, shut off the pipe to the tub forever, and get the walls and ceiling painted. Also, unfortunately, we have had an infestation of rats in the Hayes house, and it needs to have all the holes and cracks filled in to prevent that again. We've needed some repairs on the south porch railing, and you see that picture in there in the porch on the west side of the building. Just a moment. Needs repairing, but it's not used and can be worried about later. I will now turn this over to Mary Camarano and then to Helen Sanchez for our history lesson of the association. Thank you for your time. But before I go on, I would like to introduce all of the supporters of the that could come tonight of the Historical Association. Would you all please stand? Thank you. Okay, now I'll turn this over to Mary.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you, Pam. Good evening, Mayor Harrington and members of council and staff. I bring to you tonight a history lesson, a little bit just to know how the Historical Association came into being in February of 1981. Three groups, the Los Copandrinos, the San Gabriel Historical Society, and the San Gabriel Museum Association, voted to join forces to become the San Gabriel Historical Association. The Los Copandrinos were formed in the 1930s by members of the early California families to preserve early California customs, traditions, and lifestyles. And we are grateful for that, for all of that they put together back in the 30s. They saw the value of history. The San Gabriel Historical Society was formed in 1958 to preserve local historic landmarks and old adobes and a collection of historical artifacts and memorabilia. We didn't do so well with saving all the adobes. We only have 3 left in the city of all the fabulous adobes that we had at one time, and the era of just the mission and the rancheros that came and were formed at that time. But we need to preserve and protect the 3 that we have left. They kept the Lopez de Lowther adobe built on mission land circa 1800, 330 South Santa Anita, San Gabriel, and it was open to the public for over 14 years under the care and curator and expense of the Historical Society. And that happens to be right across the street from here on Santa Anita. When you go up the street, right, it's Casa Viego is the real name of it, but the Lopez de Lowther became known later on as Claudio Lopez took care of it, and the de Lowther family did put quite a bit of an investment to keep the adobe open. The San Gabriel Museum Association grew out of the 1976 bicentennial celebration, which did stimulate an awareness of San Gabriel heritage and preservation. The museum artifacts were housed in various places throughout the city. The San Gabriel Historical Association opened their very first museum in a room at Coolidge School. Mike Frost was the principal at the time, and he allowed us a vacant room. If you can believe, back in the day, there was actually a vacant room in the school, at Coolidge School at the time. The school was in need of the room a year later, so the museum artifacts were again without a home. In 1982, the museum reopened on the second floor of the San Gabriel Civic Auditorium, the Mission Playhouse. The museum was closed again in 1987 due to severe damage from the earthquake that came that same year. We all remember the Whittier earthquake. The city of San Gabriel donated the house at 546 West Broadway, formerly owned by the Joe Acuna family, back in the 20s and 40s. And the house was used as the radio station during the war years. And so we still have all of that information. We are grateful to the Acuna family for actually giving it to the city, and then the city did give it to the museum. This building became the permanent home of our museum in 1991. So just a little bit of background, because I think it really serves to let everyone know that this is ongoing, and we are grateful for all that came before us, for all their work and all their effort into preserving the history of the city. So Helen is going to give you the rest of it, but what I do have, if I can leave this with you, Sharon, if you'd all be so kind as to review an application and maybe join the Historical Association, we would deeply appreciate it. Thank you.
Good evening, members of the City Council and staff. My name is Helen Sanchez, and I've been the curator of the Hayes House since 2004. And what we wanted to do was let you know what has been involved in maintaining the house. As you know, a house always needs work, and the Hayes House has been an ongoing restoration, and all kinds of things have come up. I do want to give a lot of credit to those who came before me when the house was first moved to the site and was set up. Their task was monumental, and I had really, like the cherry on top, what I was able to do because of what they did. When I came on, the first rooms of the house had been restored. So the front parlor, the dining room, 2 of the bedrooms, and the kitchen had been very well restored. So what I needed to work on were the back parlor, the back porch, and the bathroom. And so all those rooms still had boxes of artifacts from the Hayes family. So I had to unwrap all these boxes and figure out what to do with all the items. And I do have to say that my twin daughters were my assistants. They were 11 years old, and they've stuck with me through this. So what we did with the back porch was we had to get shades. We had to get a new back door. And then we set up the bathroom. It's a very cute period bathroom. It was, not now. Then we had the matter of we call it the blue parlor now. It was a back parlor, which was full of storage items, but the ceiling was falling down and the walls were falling. And there must have been a leak at one time because the damages in there were terrible. Through Mary Camarano's daughter, we were able to get the apprenticeship union, the plasterers, to come. They took everything down to the studs, replastered the room. We had it painted, wallpapered, and it's set up as a parlor using the artifacts from the Hayes family. Let's see. Then the other thing that we had, a lot of items were stored on the property. And these items were from the Hayes family barn, which was on Pine Street. And it must have been a very large barn where all the items got stored. So many items were brought to this Broadway location here. Well, they needed to be, something had to be done with them. The jail was packed with them, beneath the house was packed. So we had to go through items and clear things out. Another problem that we had was with the roof over the kitchen, and there was a leak, and the leak was causing the dining room ceiling to be in danger of collapsing. So again, the apprenticeship union, the roofers came and fixed the leak on the house, on the roof, and then we had someone restore the ceiling in the dining room. And of course, all of this is very expensive, and I got all my bids, and the bids were going from $2,000 to $4,000 for the ceiling. And luckily, we were able to find somebody who was willing to do it for $800. It is still in perfect condition. I check it all the time, and it's intact, so we were very lucky with that. We had a situation of termites, and mainly in the Hayes house, but also on the whole property, the museum, the jail, and the Hayes house. So we had to deal with that. And then with the termites, there were a lot of damages to the 3 existing porches on the Hayes house, to the staircases. So those had to be rebuilt. And you can imagine, the cost was quite great. And we have had fundraisers to raise funds for these specific purposes. We had the exterior of the house painted after we fixed all the damages from the termites. And we used Benjamin Moore historical color palette. We tried to stick to, following historical norms and all of that. So all of this takes, investigation and attention to detail, which we really are concerned over. The jail roof was, it was termite ridden, it was shingles. So that was replaced in 2018. And then, of course, we had our disaster with the broken water pipe in the bathroom. That was in December. And we had our rat infestation. One thing that was really traumatic for us was the front door of the Hayes house has a beautiful art glass panel. It was vandalized in December of 2018. Somebody threw rocks at it. And so it was broken in a way that about 2/3 of the panel was still intact. It was just one large panel. So insurance helped us, and I worked with Judson Studios to get a new panel made for the door. And what was very exciting about that was the Judson Studios contacted me and said that the door, the glass in the door was art glass from about 1887, which they had heard about but never seen in person, and it was made in England. And so they were very excited to be able to work with this kind of glass, and they designed a new panel for us. But we were very excited to have it done and done properly. We also needed to have screens made for the house, and Victorian windows are very long, not standard size, and they also needed custom wood frames. So that was a very expensive project. We have an ongoing problem with the woodpeckers who reside in the palm trees across the street from the house. And we have spent between $1,500 and $2,000 trying to remediate the situation. And the woodpeckers just look at us and laugh. And we put up the owls and this and that, and we've had things repaired, and it's an ongoing situation. Thanks to Women's Foundation, we received a grant, and we were able to have some of the electrical updated in the house and to have the original chandeliers rewired. Believe it or not, they had not been rewired since they were installed in about the 1920s. I used to look up there and go, I do not know how, we haven't had a problem. But they were all rewired, so that part was good. So as you can see, the maintenance of a very old house is really something, and we try to keep the place in good repair and that, but it's very expensive. So anyway, I hope you just have a little look at what goes into it and what we've done, and I hope you will come and visit one of these when we can finally open again. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have no more speaker cards.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address council? Seeing none, I will close public comment. It's time for council discussion. Anyone would like to start, kick it off? Vice Mayor Wu, do you have any comments, questions?
Yeah, I will favor to approve the amendment, because I think that actually I know how much it cost for the roof turn-up, the termite service, and termites does damage the house like this. And I really appreciate the, you're keeping our property, the city's property so well and safe, like penny to penny. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Councilmember Chan.
I agree with Vice Mayor Wu. I'm just personally, I'm very big on history, and especially San Gabriel history, and I think I see the importance of keeping our historical buildings like this intact and in good working condition. I think well, I mean, of course, it's very expensive and it's a lot of money, but I think it's worth it for the sake of the pride of our city. And yeah, I would be in favor of this. Let me ask you, Ms. Sanchez, what is the issue with woodpeckers? What do they do to the house, or how does that work?
Can we take you over there and show you 1,000 holes?
Oh,
The woodpeckers reside in the 2 skinny palm trees across the street from the house.
okay.
And they have been in the oak tree, which is in the civic, in the parking lot of the auditorium. But they tend to be over there, and we see the family grow. I mean, and they look at us, and we've made noise and blown whistles and whatnot, and they just laugh at us.
They poke holes in the building?
Oh, you
That's
should
how-
see. We had the building repainted and all the holes filled. And we had owls hung, and that worked for a while. I will say, as you can see in the picture, maybe you can see there are 3 owls remaining where the roof, the A-frame
Yeah,
is.
I see that.
And those owls Mary Camarano purchased for us.
Oh.
And they're the oldest ones we have, and she must have bought the best ones because they are still hanging there since 2016. The other ones we have purchased have flown off, and we just can't keep up with it. I mean, I know I have a solution for the woodpeckers, but I'd like to remove the trees, and, yeah. But I mean, I feel like if the trees could be taken away, they are on city property, maybe it would help, I don't know. Anyway, it's an ongoing problem, and we cannot keep up with it. All the work we've had, the restoration work is undone. They found new places to poke. They fill the holes with something really, really hard. So then they find a new spot, and it's all on the front and on the prettiest spots of the front of the house. Yeah.
Glad to hear that. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, that's all the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Chan. Councilmember Ding, do you have any questions or comments?
Not now.
Not currently.
Yes.
Yes, that's the plan.
The plan.
Thank you, Councilmember Ding. I'd just like to thank the Historical Association for all the work you do. I know it's a lot, and just I know that anytime you have an old house, there's a lot of maintenance, and there's no way really to keep up with it. Anytime you think you're done, then the next thing happens. So I think we all know that anyone that's tried to keep a house maintained, it's not an easy task, and it does take a lot of resources, so I appreciate that. The time and the effort, as well as the money and everything else put into it. And there's no way really to be compensated for that. It has to be passion. That's the only reason someone would do it. You have to actually care about that, so I do appreciate that. Regarding the woodpeckers, my knowledge comes from cartoons, so don't try and use buzzards. Buzzards won't stop woodpeckers. But I really do appreciate it, so thank you. Let me see next. Do we have any motions?
Yes, I would like the motion approved.
So we'll take motion from Councilmember Ding,
I would second.
second from Vice Mayor Wu. Clerk, roll call, please.
Councilmember Chan,
Yes.
Councilmember Ding, Vice Mayor Wu,
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Discussion regarding use of artificial turf or synthetic grass on city parkways. Community Development Director Cervantes will make the presentation.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. The intent of this report is to seek direction from the City Council regarding the allowance of artificial turf or synthetic grass in city-owned parkways. In addition, this item is before the council tonight as the city is looking at not only the direction, but we're also seeing an increase in requests from residents to install this material within city property as well as on private property. State Assembly Bill AB 1164 allows for the installation of artificial turf or synthetic grass on residential properties. The law does not specify the allowance or disallowance or prohibition of this material on city-owned property, so such request is left essentially to the discretion of the City Council and a policy. Under the law, cities are prohibited from enacting laws that restrict the use of this material and enacting standards that make the product infeasible for installation. Under the city's codes and regulations, the installation of artificial turf or synthetic grass is allowed, subject to specific performance and appearance standards. The primary concern regarding this material is the installation methods. Poor installation may result in a number of hazardous conditions. If these conditions were to exist on city-owned properties, conditions such as the warping or the uplifting of the seams could very well become hazardous conditions, as well as liability or risk issues for the city. As I mentioned, poor installation may result in the seams of this product lifting, as the image to the bottom of the screen shows a seam that is disconnecting. The product does tend to wrinkle with the contrasting and expansion due to the heat, and that's the image above showing the wrinkling effect of the product. All these conditions combined, as well as a concern with runoff issues if it's poor installation, do result in hazardous conditions, as I mentioned, trip hazards, as well as appearance issues as in respect to the overall streetscape of the neighborhood. It's also important to note that the parkway trees, as well as artificial turf, may not work well hand in hand. With or without artificial turf, the street trees will still need to be maintained as well as watered. If artificial turf, such as the image shows, were to be allowed on parkways, these street trees would need to be, or at least the ground surrounding the street trees would need to be equipped with some kind of watering equipment. Also, as seen throughout the city, many of the street trees that we have exposed roots. Over time, these roots may expand and continue to grow outwards, which may result in impacting the stability of the artificial turf, as well as the installation of the artificial turf product. Lastly, because artificial turf absorbs heat, it is recommended by installers to leave a large enough buffer around the tree base to prevent impacts to the root systems. Artificial turf installed up against a tree base may impact the long-term health of the street trees. So because of these conditions, as I mentioned in the report, as well as due to the concerns of the material, staff is recommending the City Council direct staff to amend our existing guidelines to prohibit the use of artificial turf on city-owned property as well as parkways. I do bring samples before you this evening of products that we've allowed on private property, just to give the council an understanding of what the product looks like as well as what the performance looks like as well. So with that said, I open for questions.
Thank you, Aldo. Do we have any members of the council have factual questions for staff to clarify the report?
Yeah, I guess my first question is, if we were to allow this product, the homeowner would be responsible for paying for all this?
Correct.
For the installation and then, okay, and then maybe also for the proper maintenance. So if it does start tearing or getting weirdo or lumpy or the city could tell the homeowner, hey, this isn't up to code, or it's kind of as an inspection project, a process, and the city could force the homeowner to replace it or fix it, or?
There's a couple scenarios that we can take with respect to the poor appearance of a parkway installation. One would be via code enforcement. Through the appearance issue, we can require the homeowner to repair the material. To help with liability issues, if we were to permit artificial turf on parkways, is we can require an encroachment permit, which then could release liability in case there are some issues with respect to tearing or warping of the material.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have for now. I yield.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Wu?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, thank you, Aldo, for the report. So far, the city-owned parkway, who will be responsible to trim, clean the grass? The city does, or the people who lives in front of the parkway?
The private property owner who lives adjacent to the area is required to maintain the grass, with the exception of the trees. The trees are maintained by the city.
So if they don't water the grass and the grass is getting brown, will we penalize those people, the residents?
Not necessarily. We don't penalize in terms of a monetary fine. We would look for a resolution by discussing with the homeowner in terms of either replacing the lawn or some other kind of alternative to lawn. But we don't hold a heavy hand, I guess, to say the least, with respect to brown lawns.
So would there be any problem if the resident is saying, I don't want to have artificial turf in front of my house, but I would like to have the pine wood chips? Would that be an issue to the city? They need to apply permission for a city to change the look.
We can look at that on a case-by-case basis. What the city prefers to see is live plant material on parkways. But with respect to, as the image shows, you see on the base of the tree pebbles or rocks. That would not be ideal as well, because that material ends up in the curb and gutter and the stormwater system. But preferably, we like to see live material in parkways.
I see. So if a resident is saying, I would love to have the artificial turf in front of my house, but some other neighbor saying, you know what, it doesn't look good to me. So do we need a public hearing or any kind of process to get a common ideas from neighborhoods?
Not necessarily, given that it's city-owned property. We have the ability, the council has the ability of restricting the materials on parkways. If the city council were to direct staff to, let's say, for example, require a very specific process for this type of permit, we can look into that. But right now, it's essentially at the discretion of the council in terms of policy.
So let's say in the future, if all the city-owned parkway that we will just use the artificial turf, does that mean that we will save money and save water just because we have changed the artificial tarp for the entire city walkway?
That is the whole reasoning behind the material. Is very similar to, in terms of water saving, is very similar to drought-tolerant landscaping. It requires very little water. It is why I mentioned the concerns about the street trees. The street trees will still require watering and some kind of watering schedule, so you don't necessarily get away from having to water the parkways. But you certainly are going to save some water with respect to not having to water the entire parkway. You're just watering a very specific area. So to answer your question, yes, there could be some cost savings with respect to watering.
So what about if the artificial tarp damaged or just too old or they need to be replaced? Does that mean the new owners of the property will be responsible for whatever the previous owner's decision?
Yes, the current owner or new owner would be responsible for taking care of the violation.
I see. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I did some research. The city of Santa Ana and city of Anaheim, they probably have already done some part of the public walkway by replacing the artificial tarp. So have you heard anything about the feedbacks from the public? Is it a positive or negative?
Not necessarily. As I mentioned, we're receiving a lot more requests at our public counter to install artificial turf on parkways as well as on private property. That goes to show how popular the material is, and that's the reason why we're before the council tonight for this direction. I have not heard any complaints. There are existing properties in the city that have artificial turf, and some have been around for a long time without any issues. So there's certainly an argument that the material can withstand the test of time. As I mentioned in the report, is really a matter of the installation methods of the contractors. A poor installation results in some of the issues that we're seeing now, and so the request of staff is, because of those issues, we're looking to recommend against using it, at least on public property.
I see. Okay, thank you. I have no more questions.
Thank you. Councilmember Ding, did you have any questions? Thank you, Councilmember Ding. And I just had a few questions. I went through the report. Regarding liability, I think that's something that we can mitigate. I mean, we can either have a permitting process that requires, indemnification, insurance. I mean, there's a lot of ways to get around, which we can't do right now. We can't require someone to insure the parkway. So I think if someone really wants us, they can take on that liability as a homeowner, put a rider on their homeowner's insurance, and that actually provides more protection to the city. Because right now, if someone doesn't maintain their parkway, and someone gets hurt on it, it's city still pays for that, not the homeowner, unless the homeowner actually created the problem themselves. So I think that's something we could think about if council wants to go a different direction. The reason I'm thinking is because a lot of times people will spend all this money, put in artificial turf, and then you're gonna have something completely different, 5 feet away, or however wide the sidewalk is, a completely different material, and it just looks kind of funny. Like you said, I already know of at least 4 houses in my neighborhood that already have it on the Parkway. I mean, I would walk every day, I can see it. I don't see huge issues. The biggest issue is someone crossing the Parkway, because most people don't walk down the Parkway. So it might be like delivery drivers or, people that are, like people with 2 dogs, one might go onto the Parkway sometimes, but it's not like it's a high traffic area. So I don't see as big of a concern there. I really do like the idea of homeowners making the decision, but then we do the permitting, we do the mitigation measures. And if someone's willing to put insurance on it, I would be open to them putting the material they choose there, subject to the city's guidelines and city standards. And if it's installed well, maintained well, and insured, I think, I don't have an issue with, someone putting it in the Parkway. I've seen it. It can look really nice. Out of the 4 in my neighborhood, 3 of them look really, really nice, and 1 is questionable. I don't know who installed it, but I think if the city had been involved, we would have 4 nice ones. So it's just a matter of whether we want to take that on. I think there would be a permitting fee. There would be all this, the usual, we could recoup our costs of that and the inspection and all that. But I would like to see more options than less options, but obviously it's up to the decision of the council. That being said, are there any public comment on this? Do you have any public comment?
I have no speaker cards.
Would anyone from the audience like to speak, address the council? I got a question. There's one.
So a lot of the homes in San Gabriel don't have sidewalks. So if they were to put this artificial turf on their private property, are they wanting them to take it just to the easement, and then the easement would have to be natural grass or something? What would we do there? If this wasn't approved?
Yeah, we can answer that, yeah. Good question.
Yeah, I've seen that before, and in fact, we have one application now where that's the situation, where there's no sidewalk. In that kind of scenario, if the council were to reject artificial turf on Parkway, they would take their artificial turf to the property line and install an alternative material in the Parkway.
Like concrete sidewalk? No. Just kidding. Good question, thank you. Okay, I don't see any further questions from public, so I'll close public comment. Do we have any further discussion on the item from council? Any thoughts? Any motions?
I have no problem, similar to you, Mr. Mayor, don't have a problem allowing it as long as we have, the city has a procedure to do it and to enforce and make sure that it looks nice and isn't, a danger. And like what you said about forcing the homeowner to take on the liability and buy whatever insurance they need. So that's my stand on it.
So then I would suggest we can, we have, Councilmember Menchaca is out, Councilmember Ding's, attending. Maybe I would like to see staff come back with what it would look like to have that process. And then at that time, council can vote it up or down. We can still say no. Right now, if we say no, we're actually eliminating Councilmember Menchaca from the discussion, because she's not here. I'd like to hear her input on that, and as well as, have a little more time to just think this out rather than say no right now. I don't know what the rest of the council. So then we wouldn't really need a motion, just some direction.
I'm okay with that.
Okay. Thank you. So I think is that clear enough direction from staff, the discussion here? All right, thank you. Next item, please.
Acceptance of grants from Assemblymember Fong's office and approval of agreements from Asian Youth Center and Friends of Laguna, La Laguna. Assistant City Attorney Kazanowicz has an announcement, after which Community Services Director Perez will make the presentation.
Thank you, City Clerk. Honorable Mayor and council members, just brief explanation of the rules of conflict. The mayor sits on the board for the Friends of La Laguna. It's a nonprofit organization. It's not a seat that he takes for compensation, and there are specific FPPC regulations that exclude that from the any area of conflict of interest, and therefore the mayor can participate in deliberation and vote if he so desires without any conflict.
Thank you, City Attorney. I will participate.
Good evening, Mayor Harrington and members of the City Council. The city was approached to be a pass-through agent for targeted state funding from Assemblymember Fong's office. The funding is on behalf of the Asian Youth Center, or AYC, and Friends of La Laguna, or Friends. Funds for AYC total $1.5 million and will be administered by the California State Library. Funds for the Friends total $200,000 to restore the lighthouse at La Laguna. These funds will be administered by the State Department of Parks and Recreation. As the pass-through agent of the funds, the city has developed an agreement with the two organizations to ensure proper compliance with the requirements of the grant. As part of the agreement, the city is proposing to retain 5% of the grant funds for legal fees and staff time associated with the administration. For the AYC grants, AYC will pay the received services, and through the city will request reimbursement from the state agency. For the grant to the Friends, the city will pay for the services initially and request reimbursement from the state. Before we move forward with the discussion, we have a couple of representatives from the Friends of La Laguna here to speak. We have Senya Lubasic, President of Friends of La Laguna, and Eloy Zarate, Board Member.
Good evening, Mayor Harrington and Council. My name is Eloy Zarate. I am a board member of Friends of La Laguna. This has been a very good year for Friends of La Laguna. 17 years ago, the most important thing that happened at the council meeting, that when we handed over 3,000 signatures, on that day, Christopher Fetner was sworn in as a fireman. So we had this place packed. Of course, Chris thought it was all for him. He gets sworn in, and we have been linked at the hip since then. I live on 116 North Del Mar. The firemen have been my neighbors for my entire life. That's the house that I grew up in. So I do want to say, I know he's gone. Congratulations to Chris and his family, because it's amazing that somebody stays in a city for that long and is committed to the place that he was first sworn in. Friends of La Laguna started 17 years ago, as most of you know, as a action by the community to save the La Laguna playground. It was scheduled to be demolished. 30% of the plans were already set in motion, and Senya and I, John Harrington, Eric Kirchhoff, took action and said that, you know what, I think this place is a little more important to the community, and that we should, as a community, value that playground. In February, just to show you how important the playground is, the LA Times had a listing of the 600 historical places, sites in LA County, and ranked them from 1 to 600. La Laguna Playground was number 4 on that list for people to go visit. So this place, this space, it's not hyperbole to say there is no other place on the planet like it. And through our efforts that we are very proud of, and our partnership with the city, we have a one of its kind resource in the city. What Senya and I want to present to you right now, and I'm glad that we're not on the clock for the first time ever, that we can just speak?
Careful, I might stop that.
Yeah, I know. All
I know
right.
how you are.
John, wait. That we're able now, on the record, agendized, express and explain to the community what we have actually done over the past 17 years in our partnership with the city and with the community at large. That we're not coming from the outside. We have always done what everything that Senia and I and John have done in Friends of La Laguna. Our promise was to serve the community without any self-interest, extending a hand of help, of friendship, and as neighbors. When we go fundraising, we always get two questions. What is your relationship with the city? Always the first question. And we always say, great, right? It's 17 years. When Rebecca Perez got my phone call 17 years ago, I don't think she would ever have envisioned that we are friends, we are neighbors, and we're committed to the same thing we've always been committed to, is the betterment of our city. The second question that is always asked, and it was asked by Assemblyman Fong, it was expressed by Supervisor Ildo Solis, who gave us $70,000 last month. How much money has the city given you? We have a great relationship with the city. Not a penny. We have never asked anything of the city in 17 years of our service. Not once. And I know that the city has asked a lot of us, and we always with pleasure have extended our work. Again, without self-interest. We've done this old school. Benjamin Dominguez, who built the park, did things old school. You're given a task, you have a responsibility to your community, and you do the work. When Benjamin Dominguez built his parks in Las Vegas and in El Paso, it was usually private citizens who raised the money and built the park for their community. There was very little public partnerships back then after the post-war days. And when we did our interviews with the people who were involved in building those parks, they said that's how we used to do it. Roll up your sleeves, there is a need, and we're going to fulfill that need as volunteers. Friends of La Laguna has been a volunteer organization. 100% of all the money we've ever raised in those 17 years has gone directly to the park. We're proud of that. And there's also a reason that Senia will explain why we kept that strategy, why we kept the city and our work separate. That we'll take care of it, right? We'll take care of this. We will take responsibility for it, for you. Thank you for letting me speak. I appreciate you all. But of course, I'm just the opening act, right? I've always been thanked for coming back to San Gabriel. Everybody always says, the greatest gift you ever gave us was Senia Lubasic. So, yes.
Good evening again. Tonight's a night of history lessons, and it's fitting because it is Preservation Month, but I did want to share a little bit of the funding history of the Friends of La Laguna with all of you so that you can be aware of not just the work that we've undertaken in restoring the playground, but also the extent to which we've administered that work, from the fundraising to the administration of grants to the management and oversight of capital projects. And I suppose if there's one revision in the history, it would be that the city did give $12,000 to the playground, but that was in 1965 to pay Benjamin Dominguez to build it. So thank you for that. As Aloy said, when we formed in 2006, it was a reaction to the planned demolition of Monster or Dinosaur Park. When we met with the city, we were told that there were no funds to repair the playground, and you'll see that there's a change in the terminology. Repair is what you do to something modern. Restore is what you do with things that are historically eligible. And that they estimated it would cost $60,000 to be able to repair the playground. We went home, we thought about it, we talked about taking mortgages out on our homes to raise that money in order to save the park. And then came back and signed an MOU with the city that left ownership of the playground with the city, but gave fiduciary responsibility to the Friends of La Laguna. And we did that because in our thinking time, we reached out to different preservation experts and got a better sense of the treasure that we actually have in San Gabriel. And so as we began thinking about how we would come up with what we thought was the $60,000 needed, the Annenberg Foundation called us. They had responded to some of the media they had seen around our efforts, and they inquired if philanthropy might be able to assist us. And after we finished screaming and crying, we said yes, and asked for $75,000, thinking that that would give us enough to write a nomination to the state register. I had never done that before. I needed some mentoring, and so we hired Daniel Paul to guide me through what it entails to write a nomination for the state register. We leveraged the remainder of that to apply for a third round grant from the California Cultural and Historic Endowment. It was a competitive grant process using Prop 40 funds, and we were successful in that bid, bringing us to a total of $125,000 in fundraising. So I wish I had one of those kind of Jeopardy scrolling amounts, but within a year we were already at double the projected cost. With those funds, we completed a historic structures report and a successful nomination to the State Register of Historic Places. And then in 2010, the California Cultural and Historic Endowment announced around 4 series of grants for previous recipients. And so they're leveraging as much as we could from private donations, in-kind donations, employer contributions, service organizations like Rotary and Kiwanis, and again with another miracle grant from the Annenberg Foundation, we were able to pull together a $150,000 match, which we then leveraged to acquire another $250,000 grant from CCHE. So again, if you're keeping track, it brings our fundraising to $525,000. It was a grant that we administered. We oversaw the capital project, and with those funds, we're able to restore the dock, do all of the construction documents for the playground, and complete the restoration of Lookout Mountain, the central dragon that children still get to slide down today. Following that work, relying again on private donations, online fundraising, we raised the $45,000 that were necessary to restore Ozzy, our iconic octopus and logo. And I have to say, in all of our fundraising, that may be the piece I'm most proud of because it really was completed entirely through community contributions. There was no larger organization that donated to its restoration. But again, with the clock running, we are now at $570,000. In 2018, responding to pleas for funding to stabilize our sea serpent Sandy, Supervisor Barger, so pre-redistricting, provided a grant in the amount of $45,000. So now we're at $615,000, fully 10 times what we had been told would be the original cost. And now, nearly 2 decades after the beginning, FOL has had probably one of our most substantial funding periods in our history since that 2010 CCHE grant. Thanks to considerable advocacy on the part of Councilmember Menchaca, we've received $67,000 from Supervisor Solis, and then the $200,000 from Assemblymember Mike Fong. And again, these were awards that were met with tears because it looks like our concrete creatures just might graduate with our youngest child, who was the baby in arms 17 years ago. And it allows us to complete the final capital project, fully restoring all of the pieces at La Laguna Playground. That celebration was barely over when we received more good news from PCC. The Community Excellence Grant that the PCC Foundation administers awarded Friends of La Laguna $168,000 over 4 years to help, again, complete some projects, work on wayfinding, but more importantly, build a preservation guild for students and hopefully a certificate program at PCC. So the grand total is $1,050,000 that we have fundraised. And I make that point because that is monies, and will be monies, that Friends of La Laguna has administered. We have done that successfully. We've met all reporting requirements previously established, whether it was by the Annenberg Foundation, the National Trust for Historic Preservation, the California Cultural and Historic Endowment, and on down the list. When the restoration of the playground is complete, stewardship of the park and application of preservation principles in its maintenance will be the responsibility of the city. In all of our fundraising and grant writing, as Eloy said, we have never included an administrative fee for our work, nor have we ever claimed our own work as in-kind contributions billable under the national volunteer rate. I looked at that today and was surprised to see that it's at a little over $31 an hour. So volunteers are valuable, and we certainly know that. And so, with the city as the first recipient of an administrative fee taken from our fundraising, I guess I would first ask if 5% is really what you need. And then I would hope that if it is, you would embrace the value of leveraging and using monies given to a nonprofit to build the preservation fund that the city needs to protect and preserve our historic playground and our long list of historic resources. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So do we have any factual questions from council? Councilmember Ding, do you have any factual questions? Thank you. Do we have any public comment to this item?
I have no speaker cards.
Anyone in the audience that would like to address the council? Seeing none, I will close public comment. How about Councilmember Ding? Are there any public comments in your location? All right. Let me see. So council discussion. This is not for clarification. This is discussion. Do we have any discussion items? Discussion?
I'm just happy for the organizations, and I don't see any problem with accepting the monies. So.
Thank you. So Tony, do you have any questions or discussion? Yes. Do you have any questions or discussion items?
That's correct, Councilman Ding.
Correct. It's good math. Did you say waive the 10,000? So we wouldn't charge an administrative fee, that's the point. Gotcha. You have any, that's your, no more comments? Okay. Can we address it?
I was just going to say, obviously, that's a city council policy decision, and you all have that ability to make that decision. We will be spending lots of staff time. We already have spent lots of staff time, and we'll be spending staff time as we monitor the project and hand out the funds. There isn't an extra cost for doing that. That's part of staff's daily work. It does prevent us from doing other projects as quickly, but that's not a problem. And again, that's a council decision. The only thing I do want to make council and the public aware of is that we are spending actual money on the city attorney's cost for creating the agreements and working with the state to create those agreements, because this is the first time we've done that. Again, not a problem with that at all, but I just want to council to be aware that we are extending those funds, not just passing those along to the Friends of La Laguna.
Thank you. So I would comment that I agree with Councilmember Ding. I think it's a good partnership to waive those funds and not charge an administrative fee. I know in the past we've done other such programs where the city didn't add money to something grants we've given. So I think it is within the discretion of the council. I think that's a good way to go, and I don't have a conflict according to the city attorney.
So, Mayor, I have a question.
I think, no, he was just speaking of Friends of La Laguna, because that's what I was addressing what Councilmember Ding said.
Yeah, that is a question, but first of all, thank you so much for 17 years hard work and preserve the La Laguna. The memories belongs to everyone here. And second is, I just want to clarify, because we are going to accept the grants on behalf of AYC and also Friends of La Laguna. I want to make sure that it's only for La Laguna. We are exempt the percentage, that we are not taking that.
Yeah, I think I was agreeing with the Friends of La Laguna. That's what Councilmember Ding had said. We can bifurcate the vote, so we can vote on them separately. So there's
Separately, yes.
So there's no question. If we want, someone wants to make a motion for that, I think we can do that. And I just wanted to add in my comments before we go to any motions or anything that I do appreciate this history lesson and especially the math, because I know sometimes we struggle with math as a group. I know that takes a while to compile. I really do appreciate all of the work, seen and unseen, that goes on from staff, from obviously the Friends of La Laguna, from the public. I mean, we get volunteers, we get questions all the time. I've been down at the park and people have no clue who I am. I'm just watching and they'll start asking me questions. Do you know what this is? And well, I'll start curating and saying, yeah, this is this. And they, wow, you know so much. How do you know so much about this? And I typically just say, well, I'm a longtime resident and have a good interest in this. I try to, kind of like I think Eloy and Senya do, just make the place the highlight, not the people. It's for the people. It really is, and it's a special place. So I appreciate everything that's gone into this. I think we've had a lot more enjoyment and a lot more preservation than if we'd ever made it into a soccer field. So I really do appreciate this effort. So I would entertain a motion. I think we can.
One more comment, I guess. I wanted to publicly thank Assemblymember Fong for his work in getting the funds for us. So,
thank you. That's much appreciated. So this, yes, Councilmember Ding. Thank you, Councilmember Ding. So I think with staff's recommendation, we would only need one modification, which would be to alter the agreement to waive the 5% administrative fee.
And that can be done after the vote, if the vote is in the affirmative. We can make those changes.
Okay, so then I'll entertain a motion.
So clarification, do we need two different motions? One to accept?
I think we can do this motion, one motion with a change to the agreement with the Friends of La Laguna to waive the administrative fee.
I see. Thank you.
Sorry, Council, just a note as well, part of the recommendation is also approving Resolution 2329, which is required for the Friends of La Laguna.
Yeah, we were going to do the whole recommendation, all four, with just one modification. I will entertain that and not assuming a vote.
I'll make the motion then.
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Councilmember Chan, seconded by Vice Mayor Wu. We have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Chan,
Yes.
Councilmember Ding, Vice Mayor Wu,
Aye.
Mayor Harrington.
Aye.
Motion passes by a vote of 4-0.
Thank you. Next item, please.
Public comment. I have no speaker's card.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address council? Seeing none. Next item, please.
City managers report.
Oh, I'm sorry, 1 second. Councilmember Ding, were there any public comment in your, I don't want to get any Brown Act violations. Thank you. No one showed up? Come on. Come on, Paso Robles. Thank you. Next item, please.
Council comments and conference and meeting reports.
Vice Mayor Wu?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just want to say thanks to and express my deepest gratitude and appreciation to our fire department that they have hosting a very remarkable fire service day last week, and I was there and I saw that it was really a great turnout, and this is a great event that we can keep our community together. Thank you very much, especially Chief Wallace and all the fire staff. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Wu. Councilmember Chan?
Yes. Let's see. I want to echo Vice Mayor Wu. I also attended the San Gabriel Fire Service Day this past Saturday. It was a great turnout. Chief Wallace just told me earlier this evening, and I saw it happen because I was there pretty much the whole time, but he told me the statistics on, there was such a great turnout, they purchased 800 hot dogs and they ran out. And then they had to rush over and buy 300 more. So I'm kind of semi-joking when I say that maybe for next year's event, we have to, when we, actually next month, when we approve the city budget, we might have to put more for hot dog budget for next year. Anyway, yeah, so it was, and thank you to the San Gabriel Fire Department. You guys do a great job. This coming Saturday, May 20th, 2023, at 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we have our San Gabriel Play Day at La Laguna, what we just talked about. So I hope everyone can make it out, and please attend. And the last thing I have is that this will be our last council meeting before June. So everyone, please have a thoughtful Memorial Day, and thank you to all service members and veterans. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you, Councilmember Chan. Councilmember Ding, do you have any comments? lose you, Tony? I think we might have lost Councilmember Ding. It was really trailing off there. Yeah, well, we can say we lost Councilmember Ding at 8:04. I would like to just echo as well what my fellow council members have said. Wasn't able to make it to the play day. I had we did our Mother's Day gift to my mother-in-law that day, so we redid her whole garden. That was a fun day, all day. So I wasn't able to make the fire department, but we were in service anyway. I've been there in the past. I know it's a great event. We get lots of people there, and the community really does show up in force. And the firefighters they have a great. They do a great job hosting the community and teach a lot. They engage a lot, and it's just, I think it's a really, really great event that we were able to do that. I appreciate all the time and effort and thoughtfulness that's put into that. And like Councilmember Chan said, stole my thunder. The play day is Saturday. Hope to see everyone there at the La Laguna Park. Come out, bring friends, bring funds. If you want to donate, you're welcome to. We'll just come out there and have a great time. So with that, I have no other comments. I will adjourn to the next regular city council meeting, Tuesday, June 6th, 2023, 6:30 p.m.